This is Doug DeMuro, and today I'm here in the vault of the Peterson Museum. The Petersen is a very special car museum in Los Angeles, and the vault is a secretive underground area where they keep some very special cars. Now, the Petersen has added a new section to their vault with some new cars. They invited me down to check it out, so I figured I would, and I'd show you around and show you some of the quirky cars in the new section and in the vault in general. Let's do it. Okay, we start here in the new section of the Petersen vault with a very familiar car, a Lamborghini Countach LP5000S. Familiar to me because I own one, although this isn't mine. This was made 245 cars after mine on the assembly line. Same exterior color, looks identical. But especially cool is the LM002, the Rambo Lambo. Lambo made a truck, and it was insane with the carbureted Countach V12, a manual transmission. This is old school insanity. There's only 300 of these in the world, and it's one of my all-time favorite cars, and it's always nice to see an LM002. But we move on to the rest of the new section of the vault, and there are some rather interesting and unusual vehicles, such as this one, which looks like a combination of a rocket ship and a futuristic airplane and a shoe. Apparently this runs and drives. I don't really know what it is. It is ridiculous looking with tail fins and a cockpit, and it's a crazy, crazy automobile. Less crazy, 2003 Volkswagen Beetle. You got all the variety here at the Peterson Museum vault. They told me they're going to use this car to build a Lemons race car out of, and they've already put a roll cage and a seat in it, and I'm sure it'll be very interesting. This is called the Urba Car, apparently. It's from the 1970s, and it looks like a mistake. That's especially true of the seats, which are the single worst seats ever placed in an automobile at any point ever. It also has the chintziest steering wheel that looks like it came from a bumper car at a traveling road show. However, it does have wood trim. So it does have that nice, wonderful benefit. Here's something else you don't see particularly often, a Lowrider Miata. You know all the good stuff about the Miata, its suspension, its drivability, and its fantastic experience behind the wheel. It all goes away when you turn it into a lowrider. But here it is, and it still has a Sports Car Club of America sticker on it because the SCCA is known for their support and enjoyment of the lowrider community. Nice, any Miata with a great airbrush lowrider style paint job. Before you get too upset, understand it's an automatic. They haven't ruined one of your NAs that you could autocross and vape in. Okay, next up, two of my very favorite cars in here. Number one, the round door Rolls-Royce, 1925. This thing is so beautiful. I don't get into the really old stuff, but this car has so much presence. If they made anything that looked like this today, it would be the coolest thing on the road, and this really is. Amazingly, this car was in a junkyard. It was completely derelict in the 50s. This photo, you can see how it once was, and then it was restored. And it's called the round door because it literally has a round door, completely circular. That is just straight up cool. I truly think one of the most beautiful, one of the most incredibly awesome, amazing designs of all time. And then on the other hand, you have this. This is some sort of BMW. It looks like a 6 Series Grand Coupe, and it was made into an art car. BMW has a long tradition of art cars. This one done by Jeff Koons, a famous rich guy artist, and it's ridiculous. And it's not just ridiculous on the outside where there's all sorts of pows and lambs, but on the inside, the interior looks like Superman. This is not necessarily a car you would want to be driving around in, but it's one that you would want to display, like, for example, at a museum in Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard. Okay, now we're in the regular old school part of the vault where there's still a lot of cool new cars, although this isn't new. This is the Lunar Rover with steel wheels. This is apparently a practice Lunar Rover they use to practice lunar roving. And so they put what appear to be picnic chairs on a surface and then just kind of drove it around, and they used that to test the Lunar Rover, which eventually went to the moon. Now, another interesting car in here, we got a Corniche 2. It's a Rolls-Royce, but this is especially an unusual Rolls-Royce. To me, it looks like a Silver Shadow, so late 70s, but turned into a two-door coupe, which I don't believe Rolls-Royce made. I'm told this one belonged to Wayne Gretzky's wife. If you're the wife of a famous hockey player, you too could have a shortened two-door Rolls-Royce. Maybe the most exciting thing over here, though, is this. This is a Chevy HHR, but it's been transformed into a land speed record vehicle, which is not the disposition of most Chevy HHRs. Primarily, they just get smoked in. But this one has obviously a completely different situation. It looks like, I'm trying to think if anything is retained. The headlights look the same, the door handles look the same. Apparently, the speed record was going to be with the Ecotec, the four-cylinder that GM had at the time. So they were trying to get like a high-speed four-cylinder record. I don't know, but that's what this vehicle is. You will never see another HHR turned into any form of competition vehicle except for this one, which apparently rolled over and was actually rebuilt by Bruce Canepa of Porsche 959 fame. He's doing 959s and he's doing HHRs. Do you blame him? Okay, next car I'm very excited about. You look over here and you can see this blue lowrider craziness and this ridiculous Toyota race car. But because it's me, we're going to talk about the 1994 Ford F-150 Flare side. This vehicle, as you can see, sort of a pinkish purple, apparently was modified in period, clearly, as you can tell, with a bed cap and a spoiler, because that's what you did in the 90s if you got some money. This guy probably won the lottery. It's had a dealership badge from Pennsylvania. He would have been the coolest guy driving around in rural Pennsylvania in this ridiculous period modified. Look at this body kit. Look at this ridiculous body kit. There's another spoiler. Even though this probably has a 175 horsepower V8, we got multiple spoilers. We got steel wheels, but they're chromed, because that's what we're really trying for here. What a ridiculous, absurd vehicle. And thankfully on the side it says limited edition, which we can only hope is accurate. Something else I love about this truck, in addition to all of the other accessorizing that has been done. For instance, there's this step on the side with a little kick panel, and there's even a lighting element up there. There's a cover over the sunroof to make sure water doesn't get in. You have a front visor, you have a visor on the side. But the best accessory of all, coming up out of the bumper, there is a giant metal rod. It's probably 2 feet high, and its purpose, it's stuck on the bumper. It comes all the way up over the bodywork, over the hood, and its purpose is there's a tiny little light at the top, and it's an auxiliary turn signal. You don't see that too often, but that's the situation here. Now, also very cool in this area, here's a Tesla Roadster. Tesla showed this thing in November of 2017. I remember it was, or 2018, something. It was so cool, years and years and years ago, and promised production. It never happened. This one doesn't run. It's just a concept, but man, even looking at it here, I've seen it a couple times, and it would have been so cool if it had happened. And it might still, but the odds seem longer and longer as the years go on. Here's a couple of Karmas / Fisker Karmas, and over there is a Tesla that's been in a crash. We also have a Corbin Sparrow, which is some sort of single-seat electric vehicle. If you wanted to really, really, really limit your automotive footprint, you could get one of these. The turn signals look like wings. And isn't that just sweet? What other car has that? Okay, now here is a really special car. You're thinking one of the beautiful custom lowrider type things? No, I'm talking about this 2003-ish Coda. Coda was a company that was going to be making electric sedans, and they bought the bodies from God knows, I don't remember. But they created these cars that just look like the most generic vehicles in the history of time. And they actually went on sale, and they were sold for a few little bits. And they maybe sold a couple hundred of them here in the United States, and this is one of them. It's called the Coda EV, or the Coda Sedan. And here in California, you actually see them around here and there. I'd say maybe see one every year or two, just on the road like it's a car. But it isn't. It's a ridiculous car. This was EV before EV was a big thing. I mean, this was way predecessor to like the Chevy Volt, the Nissan Leaf, which were the first mainstream EVs. And it had a range of like a couple blocks. But it tried. It was trying. Anyway, it failed. But here's one. Okay, this is one of my very favorite Peterson Museum vault cars, the Cadillac. I got a great story about this car. So Cadillac built this car for the Pope. He was going to visit Latin America, and Cadillac built him this special car with this raised Pope seat, and it even has a handrail so the Pope could lift himself up and wave to the crowd. Well, right around the time they built it, there was a threat on Pope John Paul II. There was a threat on his life, or there was an attempt on his life. He decided he only wanted to ride in bulletproof cars after that. So this is open, and so he couldn't ride in it, so he never actually rode in it. So I asked the Peterson Museum, hey, can I review the Pope Cadillac? And they said, no, it's been blessed by the Pope, so we don't, people like me aren't allowed in it. This has actually happened. Another interesting story about this car, when I was at the Amelia Island Concours many years ago, I was a judge and I awarded this car the YouTuber award, like the most car that would do the best on YouTube. And the Peterson Museum very kindly declined the award, preferring to give it to someone else who actually personally owned a car. It was very nice of them. And so it went to our second choice, which was a Lamborghini Miata that caught fire. So me and the Pope Cadillac have a lot of history together. I really want the Pope Cadillac. I think it's cool. The Pope never even rode in it. Why can't I drive around in it? But unfortunately, that is off limits. So we must look from behind this rope at the Pope Cadillac DeVille with a North Star, the last running 98 DeVille North Star that hasn't yet overheated. He blessed it. Probably it'll never overheat. Okay, now we're here in the secret Peterson Museum workshop where they work on all the cars, and there is a very special car that is being prepared right now to go on display. It's a 1990 Toyota Celica concept car called the Tsunami Concept, and it was made by American Sunroof Corporation and Toyota. ASC actually made a lot of convertibles for all sorts of different automakers in the 90s, including Toyota. They did the Paseo convertible, they did the Celica convertible. The cars would arrive, and then ASC would tear them down and turn them into convertibles. This was actually true. But they made this concept car, which is the coolest thing in the world. It's based on the Celica All-Track, which was the 2-liter turbo 3S GTE car. So like 200 horsepower and all-wheel drive, manual transmission. The Celica All-Track was really cool, the GT4 in other markets. But this is especially cool because it's an open roof, ridiculous thing with this kind of rear end that you didn't get on a regular Celica. This is just so unusual. As a guy who loves quirky concept cars, I'm obsessed with this. The short, low windshield, which has an integrated rear view mirror and tinier mirrors on the side. But the best part, the Celica was a 4-seater, but this is obviously like a Roadster, except they actually did keep the rear seats in place. They're just completely unusable. And not just like, oh, there's not legroom. I mean, there's not, you couldn't have a head, you couldn't have a torso if you wanted to use these seats. But such is life with concept cars. I love this thing. And on the subject of cool Japanese convertibles, 3000 GT VR4 Spider, one of the most unusual Japanese convertibles of its day. Two very special all-wheel drive, turbocharged, manual Japanese convertibles next to each other. Kind of cool to see. Okay, next up here is a Bugatti EB110, one of the coolest supercars of its day in the early 1990s. An absolutely fantastic story about this car. This guy, Romano Artioli, he bought the Bugatti name, which had been shuttered for decades, and he took the Bugatti name, brought it to Italy, and started producing a supercar, a Bugatti supercar in Italy, and it was the EB110. And it was a V12, and it was insane, and it was super cool. It didn't really work out all that well, and eventually the whole Bugatti in Italy project was abandoned, and obviously eventually Volkswagen got the rights. A couple of interesting things. Number one, the factory is still there, crumbling in northern Italy. To this day, you can drive by it and trespass on it. Don't do that. And Romano Artioli also owned the rights at one point to Lotus, the brand, and he named the Lotus Elise after his granddaughter. The other cool thing about the Bugatti EB110, Bugatti famously had this grille design that looked like a door, like an old school door with like a half circle on top. It didn't really fit with the look of the EB110, but they integrated it anyway into this tiny little thing at the front. Looks like a mouse hole in a cartoon, but they made that Bugatti grille design work on that car. Okay, next up we have the Ferrari Enzo, world famous, the greatest supercar of the mid-2000s. It was made in 2003. It was the greatest until 2004 when the Carrera GT came out. Now, Ferrari made 399 Enzos, or so they say. That is a figure believed by literally no one. And apparently there are at least 500 cars that are around, and this is one of them. And there is more cool stuff to see here, including this, the Cizeta-Moroder, which has a V16 powertrain, and it looks ridiculous. This was designed by Gandini, same guy who did the Countach. The wedge was really his thing. And even into this car, came out in the early 90s, late 80s, he was still doing wedges. You can very clearly see the Lamborghini Diablo influence in in this car because he also did the early Diablo prototypes. Very cool car that was created in a partnership between a car designer, engineer, manufacturer guy, and a singer. And needless to say, it failed miserably and they only made like 7 or maybe 20. A couple of Ford GTs, new, old, really old. The original, the GT40 down there, Mark III GT40, I actually drag raced that in my Ford GT on an airplane runway, that exact car, maybe 3 years ago, and I won. And so, you know, who is the real winner though? when I'm racing a GT40. Probably whoever has that car. And what else is down here? Okay, next up we got a Ferrari set here, Ferrari 308, Ferrari 365 GT C4 over there in the corner. That was the car that came after the Daytona. It has never gotten a lot of love in the Ferrari world. And then here in the middle, the 550 Barchetta. Ferrari made 448 of these open roof 550 models. They did not really have a roof at all, and they truly made only 448 of them. Each car was individually numbered, and it was the last Ferrari that they individually numbered, because after that they stopped doing that so they could lie about their production volumes. This particular Barchetta, number 439. Very near the end of the line. Okay, this is one of my very favorite cars in the entire Petersen vault. This is, as you can clearly tell, an FD RX-7, so a third-gen RX-7, which was sold in the States in the mid-90s. But it's not quite an FD RX-7, and that's because this was a fiberglass model concept design study before the RX-7 was actually made. Now, I consider the FD RX-7 to be the single most beautiful Japanese car ever designed, and it's amazing to see, like, this is what it looked like in its infancy. Like, this is before they added the wheels and they don't even have badges and there's no working interior or powertrain or whatever. Like, this is like the beginnings of creating the most beautiful Japanese car of all time. Very, very, very special to see this early take on what became like a truly, truly special and iconic car. Now, apparently this car was designed by Wu Wang Chin from the Mazda Design Center in Irvine, and I looked him up, and he is still designing cars now in China. He's designing Chinese-made vehicles, but apparently he himself drives a 67 Jaguar E-Type. The guy who designed one of the most beautiful cars of all time, what do you do from that? You buy one of the even more beautiful cars of all time. Okay, next up we have one of the great cars of all time next to another one of the great cars of all time, Jaguar XJ220. One of the craziest 90s supercars. I did a review of one. It was one of the great days of my life, getting to poke around an XJ220. You can see it now actually in a pretty rare configuration with the pop-up headlights. The pop-up covers are popped down, so it reveals the headlights. This car was so weird. It didn't actually have pop-up headlights. The covers just would go down and the headlights were fixed in place. They didn't move at all. Turbo V6, crazy car. Next to it, you have an original Dodge Viper. And in fact, this is one of the first Dodge Vipers ever built. I actually reviewed this car and drove it on the streets of Los Angeles around this museum many years ago. It's on like original tires, and it was a dealer demo car that Dodge would actually take to the dealers to demonstrate the Viper for the dealers when it was brand new. Strangely, these two cars kind of work next to each other. They're like both early 90s kind of swoopy, rounded designs, ushering out of the wedge, you know, hardcore corner angle era and into sort of the more curvy, melty mid-90s and into the 2000s. Always nice to see an XJ220. Okay, there you go. That's a little tour of the quirks and features of the especially interesting cars in the Petersen Museum vault. Again, there's a new vault section with some new cars. Come on down here, check it out at the Petersen Museum. I always love coming here and seeing the weird stuff, and I hope you enjoy seeing it too.